Film looks are one of the tools at our disposal to help give our videos a cinematic feel. They shape footage to give it the sort of colour and contrast characteristics normally associated with the use of real film. In this video, we're going to cover the use of film looks when grading Oppo Log footage from the Oppo Find X9 Pro phone. We'll cover what film looks can achieve, how they're implemented in Davinci Resolve, and how we can include them in our normal grading workflow for Oppo Log footage. We'll examine the Cineon film looks that are included in the free version of Davinci Resolve and try applying them to some Olog footage. And if you stay to the end, I'll show you an additional technique that can help overcome one of the drawbacks of using these free film looks. I'm Reese, and you're watching the ISOArt Photo video channel. When we shoot in Oppo Log on the Oppo Find X9 Pro, we're already starting with very capable footage from its Hasselblad cameras. The footage is in log format, meaning it captures wide dynamic range, making it particularly suitable for creative colour grading. If you're new to using Oppo Log footage, take a look at the videos on screen now. They cover the basics of shooting and grading Oppo Log footage, and discuss some of the additional resources that you'll need if you're using the free version of Davinci Resolve. I'll leave links in the description too. The nature of Oppo Log footage, with its low contrast and saturation, means we have more control over how the final result feels, shaping colour and contrast without damaging the image. It's within this part of the process that film looks play their role. They can help shape the emotional tone of the footage. A film look can change how contrast moves through the video, how rich or restrained the colour feels, and how the overall scene is perceived emotionally. Cinematic style is not just about image quality, it's about mood or feeling, one of the pillars of the intention path covered in the considered video series linked on screen now. That's really the appeal of film looks. They give our grades a starting point and a direction. They're not about pretending the footage was shot on actual film. They're about bringing to our footage the characteristics of particular film materials, loved by the movie industry and watched by millions of cinema goers across the globe. They help us shape our footage in a more intentional way. They give us the starting point for shaping a scene as nostalgic, or cool and modern, or warm and intimate, or restrained and understated. Even when the original footage already looks very good, a film-inspired grade can give it a more distinct visual identity and a more cinematic character. Now, cinematic character doesn't come from a film look alone. It depends on how the footage is shot, how the scene is lit, and how the image is graded in post. But a film look is one of the tools that can help move the footage from a strong technical capture to something that feels more authored and expresses emotion. So with that in mind, let's investigate the Cineon film looks in the free version of Davinci Resolve. The Cineon film looks included in Davinci Resolve are implemented as LUTs, lookup tables. From the colour page, open up the LUTs tab and navigate to the Film Looks folder. In here are 12 separate LUTs. Actually, there are 6 different variants of each of 2 film looks. The variants target different colour spaces and white balance. Let's start with the film looks themselves. They're based on 2 famous motion picture print stocks, Kodak 2383 and Fujifilm 3513Di. Print stocks are the film materials used to make the copies of a movie actually projected in movie theatres. The characteristics of print stocks affect the way the projected film appears to audiences. They're associated with the final stage of the traditional film pipeline. So when we use them in Resolve, we're not just adding a random preset, we're borrowing some of the contrast, density, saturation and highlight behaviour associated with a finished film print. Kodak 2383 epitomises the classic modern Hollywood print look. It's known for rich blacks, natural highlights and a strong but pleasing contrast curve. It's been used for countless mainstream movies, for example The Dark Knight, 12 Years a Slave, Phantom Thread and La La Land. Fujifilm 3513Di has a character that differs from Kodak 2383. It's considered to be a little more open or elegant in some tonal transitions, and sometimes perceived as a touch cooler or cleaner, with a refined colour palette. The contrast is still there, but the image can feel slightly less forceful than Kodak 2383, with a different kind of colour separation. It's also been used for many mainstream movies, for example, The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, The Passion of the Christ and The Diving Bell and the Butterfly. The differences between the looks mean that we have two different starting points when creating our overall feeling. Kodak 2383 is classic, dense, rich, strong and theatrical. Fuji 3513Di is refined, slightly more delicate, elegant, versatile and perhaps a little less forceful. So why are there so many variants of each look? Well, some of them target the Rec 709 colour space, and others the DCI-P3 colour space. Rec 709 is the one intended for standard HDTV and services like YouTube, while DCI-P3 is a wider colour space for digital TV projection and HDR content, high dynamic range, on modern mobile phones and high-end TVs. In addition to the colour spaces, each look has variants for 3 different white points, giving different white balances. In each case there's a warmer variant, D55, a neutral variant, D60, and a cooler variant, D65. We'll concentrate on the variants of each look which target Rec 709 and explore the various white balances available. The Cineon Film Look Rec 709 LUTs require a specific input colour space of Rec 709 and a gamma of Cineon Film Log. We need to modify our standard workflow for grading Oppo Log to support this. Let's review that first and then look at the changes. If this is new to you, don't forget to check out the links in the description for videos that cover the process in more depth. In this project, I've set up various timelines. Each timeline contains the same set of clips, so we can compare the results of grading using different approaches. In this particular timeline, I'm using our standard Oppo Log grading workflow. The clips are in a group named Olog. For this group, the pre-clip section contains a single node which applies the usual LUT to convert Olog footage into Davinci Wide Gamut, Davinci Intermediate for grading. I've left a link for that LUT in the description. It's free to download. Each clip section contains a node for colour balance and one where the primary adjustments such as exposure and saturation are controlled. Finally, the timeline section has a node to convert from Davinci Wide Gamut, Davinci Intermediate back to Rec 709 Gamma 2.4 ready for YouTube and similar services. I've already graded this clip. If I turn off all the nodes, you can see the original Oppo Log footage. In this form, the footage is very flat with little saturation, but has captured lots of data and dynamic range. Now let's see what changes are needed when using the film looks. The pre-clip section is as before, since we still want to grade in Davinci Wide Gamut, Davinci Intermediate. So are the sections for each clip, with the balance and primary nodes for the actual grade. The change comes in the timeline section. Instead of the conversion from Davinci Wide Gamut, Davinci Intermediate back to Rec 709 Gamma 2.4, We have two nodes. The first sets up the colour space and gamma for the film look, and the second applies it. To set up the correct colour space and gamma, we have a colour space transform node. This takes as input Davinci Wide Gamma Davinci Intermediate and outputs a colour space of Rec 709 and a gamma of Cineon Film Log. Then, to apply the look, we have a node containing the chosen LUT. In this case, it's Rec 709, Kodak 2383 D60, the neutral version of the Kodak look. The output from this LUT is in Rec 709 Gamma 2.4, which is exactly what we need. No further transformations are required. Let's grade one of the clips using this look. It's pretty obvious that this clip needs more exposure. It also has a greenish cast, implying that the colour temperature may be incorrect. The excess saturation is characteristic of film looks, and they often increase mid-tone contrast and roll off shadows and highlights. In the clip section, let's increase the exposure in the primary node to about there, so we can see what's going on. In the balance node, let's increase the temperature a bit. About there. And now let's change the tint to get the sky looking more natural. That should do it. Back in the primary node, we can also increase the saturation a little. There. Okay, that's a very basic grade, but it's enough to allow us to compare the grade that has the film look to the one without it. If I switch to the grade without look timeline at the same point, you can see the difference. Going back, the version with the film look appears more saturated, particularly in the reds, and has deeper blacks and more contrast in the midtones. It shapes the colour and contrast in a very specific way, adding a characteristic feel to the footage. Of course, whether this feel is appropriate for a particular video is a matter for us as creators to decide. In this case, I think it is. This footage is from a trip in a traditional wooden ferry, so a nostalgic feeling could well be appropriate. To me, that's what this look provides. Now that we have this clip graded, at least in a basic way, we can see the effect of other looks on it. At the moment, the film look is Kodak 2383 D60, the neutral version. We can change this by double-clicking on a different LUT. Let's try the D55 variant. Immediately, the footage feels warmer. Similarly, if we try the D65 variant, we get a cooler feel. We can also try the Fuji look variants. First, let's go back to the neutral Kodak look. Now let's select the D60 variant of the Fuji look. This feels less nostalgic and maybe cleaner somehow. The saturation and contrast are still there, but it feels more contemporary. Let's look at the Fuji variants. First, D55. Definitely a warmer tone. And now D65. Again, a cooler feel. Although we can view the effect of these different looks just by selecting a specific LUT, that's not a very intentional way of using them. It's a good way to see what they do, but when it comes to creating a new video, the best approach is to base the choice of film look on the story you're trying to tell. Which look best matches the feeling you want to convey? Remember the intention path from the considered video series? By the way, there's a link in the description. Story, feeling, frame. What is that feeling? Once you have that, then you're in a position to choose a particular look, or even to decide that you'd rather just grade the footage directly without applying a specific LUT. In this example, any of the grades can work. They all provide well-exposed results with good colour and saturation. It's not about a better or worse grade, it's about which supports the story you're trying to tell. Once you've chosen the look and selected the specific LUT, then you can grade the footage under that look. All of your grading activities take place with the look enabled within your workflow. Okay, it's time to investigate one major limitation with the film looks that come with the free version of Davinci Resolve, and also to look at a way to mitigate it. The free Cineon film looks we've been using target the Rec. 709 colour space. This is the colour space we want for our output, but it's much smaller than the colour space in which we normally carry out our grading. Normally, we map our graded results back to Rec. 709 right at the end of the grade just for output. However, to use these film looks, we have to return to Rec. 709 before the look is applied. Effectively, some of the processing in our grade is happening in this much more restricted colour space. This can affect the final image in unpleasant ways, restricting how much we can achieve in the grade. For example, we might not be able to push the exposure or saturation as far as desired without breaking the image. Let's look at an example. In this shot, look at the colours of the mooring buoys holding the yachts in place and the cover on the sail of the nearest yacht. Let's compare this with the grade that didn't use a look at all. The buoys are actually a sort of fluorescent orange, and the sail cover isn't so strikingly saturated. Let's go back to the grade with the look. Now, Kodak 2383 is known and loved for its warm tones and deep reds, but in this image it seems to have gone too far. In the grade, I've pushed the saturation to get the colours I wanted in the water and the reeds behind the yachts, and that's effectively broken the image by pushing the red saturation too far. I've bumped up against the edges of the Rec. 709 colour space and lost the subtlety of shading in those red areas. Fortunately, there is something we can do that seems to help, even with these free film looks. This is the bonus technique I promised at the beginning of the video. The new technique involves using the other versions of the film looks, the ones created for the DCI P3 colour space. DCI P3, or P3 DCI as Davinci Resolve terms it, is around 25% bigger than Rec. 709. It's typically used for more modern displays. Most mobile phones can use it, for example. As a result, we're less likely to break our footage when grading with a film look if we use it rather than the Rec. 709 based looks. If we were grading for HDR, high dynamic range, output, we could simply use the results directly. They would be compatible with HDR displays. But what if we want to output in Rec. 709 for YouTube and the greatest compatibility? Well, we can. We simply do one additional colour space conversion from DCI P3 to Rec. 709 at the end of the workflow. Now you might think, well, hang on a minute, isn't that just the same as going directly to Rec. 709 in the look itself? Well, it turns out it isn't, and I can demonstrate that. Let's look at another timeline that uses this new technique. Check out the buoys and the sail cover on this version. Much nicer. So, why does this work? Well, as we grade our footage, the overall limitations on what can be represented are now caused by the bigger DCI P3 colour space. We have a bit more room in which to manoeuvre. We don't bump up against the edges of the colour space, and the final transformation to Rec. 709 is able to maintain the subtlety. Let's look at the nodes that achieve this. In the timeline section, we now have 3 nodes. The first node converts from Davinci Wide Gamut Davinci Intermediate into P3 DCI as the colour space and Cineon Film Log Gamma. The The second node contains our chosen LUT, but it's now DCI-P3 Kodak 2383 D60. The final node is another colour space conversion from P3 DCI colour space and DCI gamma, which the LUT creates, into our usual Rec 709 Gamma 2.4 for YouTube. To me, this is a much nicer result, which maintains a more graceful treatment of contrast and colour while maintaining the Kodak 2383 look. Let's look at one more clip. Here we are, back with the original clip using the Rec 709 variant of the Kodak 2383 look. Look at the colour of the bucket in front of the ticket office. Now look at the footage without the film look. It's actually orange. The grade that uses P3i DC for the look and only converts to Rec 709 at the end of the workflow retains that orange colour, albeit in the style of Kodak 2383. Now it's worth saying that the grade using the P3 DCI variant of the look is slightly different from the one that uses the Rec 709 variant. The colour balance is very slightly different in order to match the sky colour. That just emphasises that it's important to grade your footage from the start under the film look that you want to use. And finally, I have a timeline here that delivers HDR footage. Whether you can notice any difference in the footage will depend on the device you're using to view this video. There are just two nodes now in the timeline section. The first node converts from Davinci Wide Gamut Davinci Intermediate into P3 DCI and Cineon Film Log Gamma. And the second node contains our chosen LUT, DCI P3 Kodak 2383 D60. In this particular timeline, I've changed the output colour space to P3 DCI and the gamma to DCI in the timeline. That workflow should give you exactly what you need if you're trying to deliver HDR content. But of course, in order to grade that content, you'll need to be using an HDR capable display so that you get a true indication of how your grade looks. So there we have it. We've covered why we might want to use a film look when we grade Oppo Log footage. We've looked at the specific Cineon film looks available in the free version of Davinci Resolve and actually used one of them for grading some footage. We've also compared the different variants of the available looks to see what can be achieved. We've examined one major shortcoming of the Rec 709 variants of the film looks in the free version of Resolve, and looked at one way of mitigating the issue, which looks quite promising. Perhaps that will encourage you to try using film looks in your grading. If you do, let me know how you get on in the comments. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and thanks for sticking with it this far. Also, consider subscribing and turn on notifications so you can see when new content gets published. See you next time.